Hey there. So let's talk about squatting and redevelopment and squatters' rights. So, in the Danish king, in the Kingdom of the Netherlands, their Majesties and their Majesty's government has a squatter's right. I mean, if you live in Amsterdam and nobody's using a property, you can go and occupy it, and it's yours to occupy. You can't sell it, but at least you can stay there. You have a right to stay there. It's, after, there's like a, so, whether it's a democratic right or a royal prerogative, it doesn't really matter. It's a recognized right. We don't have that here if you're homeless and you're squat. There used to be something called squatters' rights, and I'm sure in some jurisdictions there are. But if you're urban and ruled away, you know, some places they'll find you other public housing. If you're in public housing, um, and they move you away, then they give you a building to occupy. That's happened in Alexandria, where they had a certain set of some prime real estate in Old Town Alexandria that was going to sell for a lot of money, and they figured, okay, they're going to build a high rise, but all the people who are there in the high rise, and then and ship them off, and and still charge them rent, but because public housing is not free. Um, and then they redeveloped them into very fine townhouses and condominiums, which is a ripoff because they had a right to where they were. So what I'm thinking about is Skid Row in Los Angeles and the lack of care for it. To you know, Nobody's got the courage to figure out what to do with those people in that land, and that's expensive land. I mean, if you could value the highest and best use of that land. What the breakdown is that there's also a penalty for clearing that land out, because then you've got to make sure these people have someplace to stay. They don't return, and that you're not, and the cameras aren't there when you evict them and arrest them, or or find some way to quietly kill them, or put them someplace else, send them to their families, whatever. They don't care enough to make sure that the people are okay. I mean, you can, which they should do anyway, to say, we're coming here and we're going to see what you need, and we're going to not leave you alone until you're there, and then we're going to make sure you get it. That's a human thing to do, and we don't do that as a society, at least not in the city and county of Los Angeles, in that district called Skid Row. At least in D.C. they move people to shelters, and people still camp someplace, because I mean, the human species has recognized the right to camp out and have that be their spot. It's the right of, this is my spot, is always the case. I was thinking about that because I got a whole big forest out here behind me, literally behind me, through a couple of walls. 1 minute over, there's Rock Creek Forest Park, which is owned by the Maryland National Capital, whatever. It's a park. It's where Rock Creek is. The Western Branch is what we call it, or have called it. And I figured, hey, why not just? There's a lot of lumber there. Why not just tell my roommate, hey, let's build a squat. I have, it's not because I've got a book on my shelf about how to build a house for $50 or less, by digging into the hillside, and how to find the right thing, how to get the materials, how to make sure there's light in the structure, make it a decent house for, sweat equity. You find the spot, you claim the spot, you buy the spot, and you spend $50 to build a house. You can still do that. You gather the timber. There's a ton of timber out there. It's ready to burn. I mean, I hope they do something with it, because right now it's just a fire hazard. There's acres, an acre of timber. So that's how I'm relating to this. So, there's acres of human timber and Skid Row. So those people have a claim to value by the same right, that they have secured for themselves a squat, a piece of land that is theirs, that if you take it away, it will be infamous. The cameras will watch them clear them out, and you will be, because that's the only reason that they're not cleared out. It'd be infamous to do that. You can't just haul them out. So because they have that right, they need to be paid for that right. That's locking in the lock-in proviso, that we all have land fee simple, and we pay the fee simple, so that which is property taxes, so that we can pay the commonwealth for our share, for our ability to take this piece of land for ourselves from an organized society. So from a commonweal. So yeah, technically, if you have a squat, then you should pay taxes on it. But the right to squat is older than the right to own something fee simple. So you've got squatters all over Skid Row, and out under the sidewalk. There's it's a human cave. It's a human zoo with no visitors. Visitors not allowed. And various activities happen there. We don't know how much or what. And yeah, it's, kind of an unbridled territory that I'm sure, if extremes happen, that there is something done, but nobody really cares enough about these people, these human beings, to make sure they're okay, because they have a right to, they've been given a right by the state to refuse help, to be not okay in some spot, which is a silly right to have. So that's what they've gotten from modern American society: a squat and the ability to say no to help. So, and they should probably still have that ability. I don't think they should. Personally, I think that if you're incompetent to live a decent life in buildings and stuff, that society has a responsibility to take you, put you someplace to rehabilitate you, and be rehabilitated so that you're fully functional human being with education, psychiatric treatment, which is what I get. I mean, I'm on the public dole for being crazy, and I'm saying crazy things, so take it as it will. And I get money for that, and housing. I get money from the county for housing, and some portion that I get from Social Security goes to the housing as well. In fact, that's my biggest expense, I think. If you take the money that's given to the people who give me housing by the state, and the food assistance by the federal government, I think that the federal assistance is also from the local assistance is actually from the federal government, I think, it's borrowed and then borrowed from the rich, and that's why we have capitalism. But that's another story. It sounds crazy when I say it out of context, but that's really how the system works. Instead of just giving me adequate funds to get an apartment, it's a complex system. So yeah, they do this for people who are willing. I'm willing to have treatment so they don't have to put me in an asylum. I'm compliant with that treatment, and they give me money and housing and a little money for food. Because they don't want to put me in a large farm-like setting where all the people like me are in one place demanding, what could be a very tenuous situation as far as, getting somebody to manage that situation and provide decent care that's better than the care I can provide myself, which is considerable. I'm not totally helpless, just not able to go to work, not able to get up at 5 in the morning. I'm rather more likely to go to sleep at 5 in the morning, and go to work and listen to somebody else that's not as smart as I am, because people who are bipolar tend to be, and schizophrenic are smarter than the people that they would work for if they were working. Schizophrenics are very smart, and bipolar people are very smart, so smart that something's wrong up here. So now that's the people in the squat. And what I'm getting to is that they should be allowed to go get stuff the human values taken care of, and they should be offered that. But they should also, the price for developing Skid Row should include a payment to those people who are squatters, and housing and a profit and a payment. Since the people who are developed that site are seeking permission to take their houses away from people who have houses, who have land, for however they get it, however they're paying for it, they have obtained land, and they deserve a return if that land is sold in perpetuity, because they occupy it in perpetuity. So, if you're developing Skid Row, then all those people who you're displacing should either be taken someplace else and given land, or live in an apartment on that property. It should be mixed use. So if somebody wants to develop Skid Row, put it in an RFP or an RF whatever, request for proposals, request for bids, RFP, and say part of the deal is that you'll be paying property taxes on that, but a portion of those property taxes go toward the maintenance of those people who have a squatter's right. And that's in perpetuity. So you either have to provide them with an apartment on site or an apartment off site, offer them services, and offer them either the free rent plus the share of the profits that they over and above that, or free rent someplace else, or at least some share of the profits for them, not their heirs, but for them in perpetuity. Meaning, if you squatted at Skid Row and your squatting rights are taken care of, then you deserve a profit from the developer and their successors, as long as you live, for your share of that property that they acquired from the city. You do that, and somebody is going to bid, and you will clear out Skid Row by assessing and rewarding the rights of the people who are there. Right now, they don't want to do that. And the people, you give the people a deal. You give those people you want to clear out a right of their squat, for being moved, for being inconvenienced. You give them money, and you say, okay, for the rest of your life, we're going to put you someplace. We're going to put you someplace in the interim, and we're going to either give you an apartment where we're developing apartments, or we're going to give you some sum, and it's going to be financed by the property taxes of the people who are developing that spot. So, they make money. Let's say there's multi-million dollars in property taxes to be paid for that spot. It's a loss of the public treasury that this isn't being done. So give a share to the people who have squatted there, their fair share, their squatter's right, their squatter's pension. Do that, and then Skid Row will be taken care of, because somebody wants to profit from that land. They just have to be willing to share the profit with the people who are already there. Do that, and it's a model for everywhere. Just pay the squatters' rights off, and then get those people. Then you can offer them help wherever you squat them, and they have to have certain rules. You can't mess up the common area. Then you can evict them, and they lose their squatter's right. And you can't do that for no. And maybe they don't lose the right. Maybe they keep the squatter's right, because people are funny that way. They like to, screw people over multiple ways. Get revenge, because people are, basically nasty, because they want their rights. So yeah, pay for, people should be leavable, but they should still get their money for their squatter's right. So reward the squat with a squatter's pension, and develop Skid Row, because it is an eyesore, and it's a human stain, a stain on the society. It's a societal stain to keep people like that in those conditions, when you can just pay them off forever, as long as they live, and make them societal humans again. So yeah, squatters' rights. Heard it here first.